All right. Shalom, shalom. I want to start off by saying, Kal halal la Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rapakodan. Always some fucking asshole. You know, that is giving all praises to the Heavenly Father in the name of His only begotten Son, also in the name of the Holy Spirit in the Paleo Hebrew. I also want to give a double honor to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone, whom I learned the truth from. Greetings, salutations to all you Archians. And, I'm just outside again, to prophesy the downfall of this kingdom, all right? The kingdom of the Edomites, you know. Now, the Edomites are the so-called white people today, okay? That's very important to know because now you can understand the reason the world is in the predicament that it's in, okay? When you understand who the Edomites are, who the true Israelites are, you can clearly understand why the world has taken this trajectory in its course in history, okay? And the reason being is because the Edomites, all right, or are a nation, okay, that was chosen to be the weapon of the Lord, okay, the whipping stick of the Lord, because the people in this sign, which talking about the so-called Negroes, Native Americans, and Latinos, transgressed the law, statutes, and commandments. Okay, the Lord only dealt with one nation, all right, and that nation is the Israelites. Okay, let's grab the scriptures, and I'm going to prove it through the scriptures. I don't want Ratazah. Okay, now let me grab Psalms here. Now just bear with me. I hate this tablet, man. I'm going to get me something else. I don't want Ratazah next week. Okay. Now this is Amos chapter 3 and 2. You only have I known of all the families of the earth. Therefore I will punish you for all your iniquities. And this is why the people on this sign have been reduced to nothing, man. They've been reduced to ashes. Okay? And this is why the so-called white man's at the helm right now. Because the Lord has used them just like he used Pharaoh to bring him up to be this mighty force to whip the people in this sign, man. This is why the Lord has done everything he's done to the earth. All right, why he allowed these devils to create nuclear missiles, allowed them to create biological weapons, allowed them to create cars, all kind of crazy shit that really all they do is destroy the earth. That's why the scriptures say destroy them that destroyed the earth, because these are the devils that are creating barium oxide and spreading that in the air through these chemtrails, and barium oxide destroys the immune system. They give you water in plastic. They give you all kinds of immunizations, all kinds of jabs. Who else is doing it, man? These devils, man, the Edomites. Okay, the so-called white men are the Edomites in the Bible, who the Lord hates. Okay, according to the Bible. Okay, now the word Edom, okay, or Esau first and foremost, because his name was Esau, then he got changed to Edom. The word Esau means Ishashua, which means wasted away is he, because his skin is translucent. Okay, the sun actually hurts them, you know, because they have no melon, they have no protection, but yet they want to say that dark skin is ugly. Dark skin is the word. That's how you know that who the devil is, man. Okay, now um, let me see. Let me grab this. Esau is the rod. Um, let me grab this. Man, this tablet is just awful. That's why you know when you go cheap, man. All right, this is Psalms 147 and 20. Okay, it says, "He hath not dealt so with any nation, and as for his judgments, they have not known them. Praise ye the Lord." Okay, because the 613 laws, statutes, and commandments were given to the Israelites. Let me read up a little bit. 147 and let me see. And 19, it says, "He showeth his word unto Jacob, his statutes and his judgments unto Israel. He had not dealt so with any nation, and as for his judgments, they have not known them. Praise ye the Lord." And that's why these people were reduced to ashes, because the Lord only dealt with us. Okay, scriptures say that he chose one people, one lily. Let me grab that. He chose. Second Ezra 5:26. It says, "And of all the fowls that are created, thou hast named thee one dove, and of all the cattle that are made, thou hast provided thee one sheep," right? "And among all the multitudes of people, thou hast gotten thee one people. And unto this people whom thou lovest, thou gavest a law that is approved of all. And now, O Lord, why hast thou given this one people over unto many?" Right? Because even the prophet Ezra said, hey Lord, you chose us, the Israelites, you know, and you gave us the law, statutes, and commandments, but then you gave us away to everybody else, because all these other nations have had the nation of Israel in their hands, right? It says, why hast thou given this one people over unto many, and upon the one root hast thou prepared others? And why hast thou scattered thy only one people among many? And they which did gainsay thy promises and believe not thy covenants have trodden them down. Right, the heathen. Okay, they don't believe that we are the people of the Lord. They believe, they deep down they believe that the Lord can cut us off. But the scriptures say in the book of Malachi, if I'm not mistaken, that the Lord changes not, meaning he's the same today, the same yesterday, and that the scriptures also say that it's easier for heaven and earth to pass than a title of the word of the Lord. So it's impossible for the Lord to do away with his people. What has happened is, right, that the Lord, because of our transgression, has pretty much put curses upon us, as he promised, right? Let me grab that, okay? Because you got a lot of dudes now. There's a dude out there, this dude Gypsy Crusader, you know, he does it for clout. At the end of he could be racist. I mean, there's rumors that he's a so-called East Indian slash Issachrite, but he looks like an Edomite, and he could be an Edomite, who knows? But he goes around spelling nigger and calling everybody all kinds of name, and pretty much trying to prove that so-called black people and Native Americans or Latinos are savages, right? That they're so-called, these brute people, and they kill each other and all that. But little does he understand who he is, okay? And little does he understand the scriptures, right? And the reason why these people are in that predicament, okay? There's nothing that they can do, right? Because you had all these civil rights leaders, right? The Malcolm X's, the Lucifer Queens, and so forth and so on. And they couldn't do anything to get these people out of that predicament. We went from hardcore slavery to corporate slavery, okay? And then in top of that, we went into the notion that we were somehow free, okay? When in reality, we were never free. They found other ways to fuck us in via psychological warfare, okay? Via psychological warfare, and then you top that, right, with the curses that were put upon us, and that's why you got thus today what they call YNs. Right, you got these young niggas, right, that go around and they start shooting up and doing all kind of crazy shit, right? And one of the main things that this dude Gypsy, he loves to laugh about is that the men from from the 12 tribes, right, don't have the father in the house, right? But the reason for that is because it was prophesied that we will have fatherless children. The real Israelites will have fatherless children, okay? Because of the transgressions, because we went off, right? Let me grab it. And these curses, right? This is Deuteronomy 28 and 45. It says, moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee, and shall pursue thee and overtake thee till thou be destroyed, because thou hearkenest not unto the voice of thy Lord thy power, to keep his commandments and his statutes which he commanded thee. And they shall be upon thee for a sign and for a wonder, and upon thy seed forever, right? Because thou servest not the Lord thy power with joyfulness and with gladness, right, of heart, for the abundance of all things. Therefore shalt thou serve thine enemies, which the Lord shall send against thee in hunger and in thirst and in nakedness and in want of all things. And he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck until he have destroyed thee. And that's what happened. That's why you had the so-called transatlantic slave trade. Why these so-called white people, these Grecians, were able to hem us up, right? Hang us, put an actual physical yoke of iron upon us, and then afterwards they talked about we were free, right? With the so-called Emancipation Proclamation, which was a hoax, right? It was nothing more than a transfer of ownership to corporations, right? And then they were able to put a yoke on us, an invisible yoke on us, until we've been destroyed, right? We've been to reduced to the hoods in Chicago, the hoods in Boston, the hoods everywhere else. And to take it a step further, right? The favelas up in Rio, man, and you could take the ugliest neighborhood in America, and they don't even come close to the how bad it is over there in Rio, how bad it is over there in Puerto Rico. All right, how bad it is in the Dominican Republic. Everywhere these people are in the worst predicament of any race up in the planet, and there's a reason for that. Why? Because of Deuteronomy 28, man. Deuteronomy 28 all the way down to 68, okay? Where it talks about we were going again into slavery with ships, right? And those ships that's talking about is talking about these transatlantic slave trade ships, one, right? But also in modern day, the airplanes too, man. Because the scriptures say that Ephraim, for example, will bring their children to the murderer. And America's the murderer, man. You know, all these northern kingdom, they're coming over here, to bring their kids and seeking, a new life, seeking a life that they can escape the hunger that they're going through over there in them lands, man. You know, which is also bring coming back into hardcore bondage, because guess what? When they get here, they're gonna be worked to the bone, man. Most of these Northern Kingdom, the Guatemalans and the Mexicans, the all so forth. You know they have 3 to 4 jobs, man. Some of them are living in you could have a one bedroom apartment. You know there'll be 20 up in there in one bedroom, man, with 20 little beds, man. And that's why our people have been reduced to, man. But there's no escaping this, except it be by Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai, except it be the Lord himself comes down, because he said that only by him and through him can we be saved. Okay? And that's why the Lord had to come down here, all right, to save the hopeful elect from the bondage and the hardcore slavery that this man has put us in, and also to put them in slavery, man. Okay? Well, let me read a little bit more, right? Because this dude, Gypsy, he's a total clown, a buffoon. He dresses up like the Joker. He's a clown anyways, right? He loves to talk about the fatherless, right? Um, it says, verse 50, 49, it says, the Lord shall bring a nation against thee from far, from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle filleth, a nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand, right? Primarily talking about these Edomites, right? A nation of fierce countenance, which shall not regard the person of the old, nor show favor to the young. And that's these Edomites. They're ruthless, evil, man. You know, they're the worst of the worst. And starting with these Amalekites too, man. That's why the Lord told Saul to wipe them out, but Saul didn't follow through with command, so he left them out. And and today they're the worst of the worst. You know, they're the biggest number one enemy to these people right here, starting with Amalek, the head tribe of Esau, Edom. Okay, it says, and he shall eat the fruit of thy cattle and the fruit of thy land until thou be destroyed, which also shall not leave neither corn, wine, or oil, or the increase of thy kind, or flocks of thy sheep, until he have destroyed thee. And he shall besiege thee in all thy gates, until thy high and fenced walls come down. Now let me jump a little bit. Verse 58, you know, and you know, you can read down Deuteronomy 28, but I just want to get to the point for edification's sake, right? It says, if thou wilt not observe to do all the words of this law that are written in this book, that thou mayest fear this glorious and fearful name, the Lord thy power, right? Yahweh, what Yahweh Shai, man. Okay, those are names to fear. Okay, that's what the scripture's telling us. You got naysayers out there talking about we don't need the name to be saved, right? It says, then the Lord will make thy plagues wonderful, and the plagues of thy seed, even great plagues, and of long continuance, and sore sickness, and of long continuance. Moreover, he will bring upon thee all the diseases of Egypt, which thou was afraid of, and they shall cleave unto thee. Also every sickness and every plague, right, which is not written in the book of this law, then will the Lord bring unto thee until thou be destroyed. And some of them plagues include the nuclear missiles too, man. Because a lot of our people, 2/3 of our people, going to be destroyed in this thermonuclear fire, right along with Esau. Okay, it says, and the Lord shall scatter thee among all people, from the one end of the earth even unto the other, and there thou shalt serve other gods, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone. And among these nations shalt thou find no ease, neither shall the sole of thy feet have rest. But the Lord shall give thee there a trembling heart, and fall and failing of eyes, and sorrow of mind. And that's us right now, man. You know, starting with the head apostle on down, and you know, the men that have acknowledged and have now know that we are the Israelites, and we want to come back because we know what we did. Okay, and that's a step forward, you know, because guess what? The Lord's going to come back and he's going to redeem the elect, right? But bottom line is that all these curses are upon us, you know, and guess what? Every single prophet, even though they were righteous, they still went into slavery. They still took part of those curses. You know, you got this new doctrines out there talking about we're not under the curses anymore. You know, but yet Jeremiah was, okay, Isaiah was, all right, Daniel was, all right, all the prophets, whether they, you know, the Lord judges by nation. So we as a nation, we got to endure what the judgment is, because he spoke to the nation. He didn't speak to no individuals. So we're still definitely under those curses until the Lord comes back and delivers us. Okay? Let me finish up here. Verse 67. In the morning thou shalt say, would the Most High it were even, and at eve thou shalt say, would the Most High it were morning. For the fear of thine heart where thou shalt fear, and for the sight of thine eyes which thou shalt see. And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships, by the way whereof I spake unto thee. Thou shalt see it no more again, and there ye shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you. You see that? And that's what happened. Our people went into slavery because of Deuteronomy 28:68, which proves that these are the real Israelites of the Bible. These people that are over there in the land right now, they never went back into Egypt in no ships, man. The only bondage they can possibly think of is Hitler's Germany, which wasn't really bondage. It wasn't. They talk about 6 million Jews. You go back and you look at the census, the 1939 census. You can clearly see that The Jewish population in Germany was not even nowhere near that. You know, it was nowhere near that. You see, but in the transatlantic slave trade, it was way more than 12 million people that died of us. But they never talk about that. They have amnesia when it comes to that. But guess what? The Lord's going to judge these goddamn Edomites, man. All these Edomites are going to pay. And every single nation that's had a hand in the captivity of these people are going to go into slavery and they will be destroyed. Okay? There's going to be a third world war and all these nations are going to be destroyed. Okay? Now that's presuming a biblical prophecy, man. You know? Now where was I? Hold on. Right? Let's see, fatherless. Let me grab this. It says Jeremiah 49, let me see, verse 49, let me start at 10. It says, I'm going to start at verse 10. It says, but I have made Esau bare. I have uncovered his secret places, and he shall not be able to hide himself. His seed is spoiled, and his brethren and his neighbors, and he is not. Leave thy fatherless children, I will preserve them alive, and let thy widows trust in me. For thus saith the Lord, behold, they whose judgment was not to drink of the cup have surely drunk it. Right? So there it is. You got this dude, he loves to laugh about the young men in this sign having no fathers, but it was prophesied that we will be fatherless. It's no coincidence that the majority of our men grow up without fathers. They grow in single parent homes with the single mothers, and that goes for everywhere, not just in America, because of prophecy, man. Because we are the real Israelites. It says, verse 12. For thus saith the Lord, behold, they whose judgment was not to drink of the cup have surely drunk it. And art thou he that shall altogether go unpunished? Right. And these people weren't supposed to be going on. They weren't supposed to have drinking of that cup of slavery, because the Lord chose them to be his people. But they did drink it, and we are the apple of the Lord's eye, man. So how much more Esau? How much more than the most vile, wicked individual that ever existed in the human history, right? It says, behold, they whose judgment was not to drink of the cup have assuredly drunk it. And art thou he that shall altogether go unpunished? Thou shalt not go unpunished, but thou shalt surely drink of it. For I have sworn by myself, saith the Lord, that Bozrah shall become a desolation, a reproach, a waste, and a curse, and all the cities thereof shall be perpetual wastes. I have heard a rumor from the Lord, and an ambassador is sent unto the heathen, saying, gather ye together, and come against her, and rise up to the battle. For lo, I will make thee small among the heathen, and despised among men. Okay? And that's Esau. He is despised among men. They don't want these devils. They call him the great white Satan, the great white Shaitan. The Middle East hates them. Everywhere else, man, they hate these damn devils, because they know what they're about. They're about so-called democracy, which is nothing more than excuses to go bomb and rob. Look what they're doing in Venezuela, man. This devil outright said, yeah, they're gonna give us back. They're gonna give us the oil, and they're gonna give us the land that belongs to us. But that's the devil. The devil. Before he used to come in subtly, but now he's saying fuck it, fuck with that. We just gonna go and take. That's what they do. They robbed America, they robbed Africa, they robbed everywhere, every single land, and that's in the scriptures. That's in the Bible that you devils will do that. That's in the Bible. See, and they look at see looking back. I don't even have to say white people, because they know what they did. They know they go around pillaging and robbing, and they want to point the finger. But hey, let me grab this, man. Let me grab the scripture right here, man. They name land after themselves. The Bible describes a so-called white man. Okay, The Bible describes what your behavior, right? Let me grab it. They name land after their own names, after themselves, man. Um, Psalms 49 and 11. Their inward thought is that their houses shall continue forever, and their dwelling places to all generations. They called their land after their own names. America Vespuccia, America, right? Africa, Dominus Scipius Africanus. Africa was named by a white general because these devils, they everywhere they go, right? They take hold and they want to name the land. They claim it, and they're so greedy, right, that nobody else can have a claim to it. You know, that's why the scriptures say in the book of Habakkuk that they enlarge their desire as the grave, because the grave can always receive a body. The white man, he's so greedy, right, that he can't leave nothing alone. You see, he can't leave nothing. They say, yeah, the niggas got to go back to Africa. Well, if we go back to Africa, right, and we don't even interact with white people, guess what? White people will go down to Africa and trying to fuck with us. That's what you do. You can't leave shit alone, you damn devils. These damn devils can't leave nothing alone, right? But when you tell them of themselves, they have amnesia. But that's why the Lord's going to destroy Esau, Edom, man. All right? That's why the Lord's going to destroy them. And only by the Lord can we rid the earth of this plague, man. Because it's Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, he's a plague on the planet. He's a plague. And this ain't just a thing of racist statements. This is facts, okay? The people that are sitting in a laboratory making AIDS and creating diseases are these devils, man. The people that are going around stealing all natural resources and ball hugging all natural resources are these devils. Okay, they're the ones that are doing it. If it was a blue man that was doing it, I would gladly say, hey, it was the blue man. You know, if it was a orange man, you know, I would gladly say, hey, it was the orange man. But no, man, it so happened to be them. They're the ones that are going around doing this, you know, in a white laboratory in MIT, you know, concocting all kind of nuclear crap that can just destroy everything. You know, you had this dude recently, this MIT professor that got, man. Good riddance, you know. So Psalms 49 and 11, again, their inward thought is that their houses shall continue forever, and their dwelling places to all generations. They call their land after their own names. Okay? Nevertheless, men being in honor abideth not. He is like the beast that perish. This is their way is their folly. Yet their posterity approve their sayings. Salah. Like sheep they are laid in the grave. Death shall feed on them, and the upright shall have dominion over them in the morning, and their beauty shall consume in the grave from their dwelling. You see? And that was a future prophecy, man. That psalm is a future prophecy. All right? Talking about what's going to happen to these devils. Okay? But, you know, when it comes to everybody else, you know, it's let bygones be bygones. But when it comes to them, you know, when we tell them about themselves, you know, you know, it's now it's a problem now. Now it's a problem because guess what? Everybody else can get fucked up except them, right? You know, but you know, you had this, like I said, you had this dude. Now he's this big shot. This dude, Gypsy Crusader. You know, fucking annoys me the fuck out of me, man. You know, the audacity of these devils, man. You know, these devils, you know, are void of light. You know, they have no culture. They have they're a bunch of culture vultures. They want to talk about the swastika. The dude, you know, the dude has a flag in his room. You know, bringing up the Hitler's Germany flag, but the swastika is actually a Hindu peace sign. It doesn't. They didn't even come up with that. It's a Hindu peace. It's meant for peace, but the devil, he perverts everything. Same thing with the rainbow. The rainbow was a sign, right, and a symbol that the Lord will not flood the earth, according to the Bible. But guess what? This devil came out and put the rainbow flag as a symbol for homosexuality, man. Yet they want to call themselves a God-fearing nation. See? But he will put, that's what he does. He perverts. Let me grab that. Let me grab that precept. Okay? Let me grab that precept. This is Isaiah 29:16. Surely your turning of things upside down shall be esteemed as the potter's clay. For shall the work say of him that made it, he made me not, right? So he will make everything wicked to be cool. You know, you got all these young women out in social media, every single platform, you know, making it cool to show off their bodies, show off their cleavage, you know, show off their goodies, you know, making it cool. That's what's cool now. You know, making it beautiful, and that's beautiful. You know, so-called women live, so-called feminism, and feminism is the layaway excuse for these females to walk around all naked, when the scriptures tell you that a woman should be dressed in modest apparel, man. But that's the turning of things upside down. He's turned this world upside down, man. And the only way this world's gonna be back into flourishing is when the so-called white man's taking down the power. That's the only time that this earth is gonna see peace. You know, the only time. Isaiah the 14th chapter tells us that even the trees are gonna rejoice, right? When the so-called white man gets taken down, because guess what? There's gonna be no more lumberjacking. All these tires for your cars, they all come from trees, rubber. You know, what else? The harvesting of GMOs, and you know, the spilling of oil in the sea, and all fracking, all these crazy shit, man, that just destroys the environment. Destroy. Not they come up with what do you call that? The ecologists, you know, people that are trying to conserve the ecosystem. They're doing a terrible job at it, man. You know, because guess what? You got nuclear waste where there's nowhere to put nuclear waste. You know, nuclear waste is very dangerous, and that's why you know now your children are being born with all kinds of pestilence and diseases, man. But that's also prophecy, because the scriptures say that in the last days, right, there shall be many plagues, many hunger. Nation shall rise against nation, kingdom against kingdom. And that's why you're seeing all these wars that are popping up, because it's the end of the end. This is the end of the end, man. Esau's kingdom ain't gonna be around too long. You know, these devils ain't gonna be around too long. Every kingdom that have come before have fallen. The Roman Empire came up and they went down. America's the second leg of the Roman Empire. Now, in the height of the Roman Empire, they thought it was impossible. Like we read, the inward thought is that their house shall continue forever, because that's their mentality. Their mentality, they're so proud, right? Hence their animal symbol is the eagle. The Bible says, though thou exalt thyself as the eagle. Every single kingdom, the Germans had the eagle. The Romans came up with they had the eagle. You can take a look at that movie, The Eagle, man. What was that dude? Jason. I forgot the name of that dude, man. But you had that movie, The Eagle, you know, which was the Roman standard. And that dude went. He wanted to die behind that eagle, man, because that's their symbol of pride. Though that, let me grab it, right? And that's how we know that you're the Edomites. Okay, that's how we know Esau, the so-called white men, are the Edomites. Though thou exalt thyself. Let's see. As the eagle. This is Obadiah 1 and 4. It says, though thou exalt thyself as the eagle, and though thou set thy nest among the stars, thence will I bring thee down, saith the Lord. You see, they exalt thyself because the eagle is a very proud animal, man. It sticks its chest up and it looks up on high, right? You know, so they love the eagle. You know, the Germans had the eagle. I think Portugal. Who else? Pretty much every single Edomite kingdom that have rose up has had that eagle as their animal symbol. You know, the Bible and the Lord are very symbolic too, man. Numbers are symbolic, animals are symbolic. Like the bear symbolizes the Russians. You know, it's no coincidence that the Russians ruckus out here. So it's no coincidence that the Romans, Salaki, that the Russians identify themselves with that bear, the Russian mother bear. Because that's going back to the prophecy of Daniel. You know, that prophecy where it speaks of that statue, man. You know, so man. All these naysayers that don't believe in the scriptures, they clearly don't understand the scriptures, because all you got to do is compare history and the world today to what the scriptures is saying. You can clearly see the prophecies, man. You can clearly see that this book stands true, that it has never failed, as the scriptures say. But, you got a lot of people that want to believe in all these other crap. There's no book that comes close to the scriptures, man. Not the Quran, not the Talmud, not any other. You can compare any other book. None of them will stand true, because they don't they don't prophesy like the scriptures do. You know, you got a lot of our people that love to flock to that Quran, man. Which is a bunch of bullshit. At the end of the day, that book came after this book, the holy book, the Bible. Okay, and is a clear thing. Is a clear thing, right? That the Bible stands true because of the Israelites. Everybody reverences the Israelite. Even the Quran reverences the Israelites. They acknowledge who the Israelites are, and the Israelites are not Ishmaelites, right? So everybody deep down know that the Israelites are the chosen people of the Lord, and the Lord. And guess what? The world is gonna go back into being ruled by the right people, because it was promised to us. They want to say, yeah, it was promised to them 3,000 years ago. That's the inside joke roaming around in the internet right now when it comes down to these Khazars. But in reality, they're not the real people. Those people over there in the land right now that call themselves Israelis are not the real Jews. They're not the real descendants of the people that walk across the Red Sea, and everybody knows that, right? Because they don't fit any prophecy in the Bible. Isaiah 60, I love to bring out Isaiah 60. Talks about the heathen are going to nourish our people, that we will suck the breast of the Gentiles. And that's symbolic for all these heathens bowing down to us, paying us tribute. Because after the world gets destroyed, the world as you people know it, right? There's going to be a period of slavery. Okay? There's going to be a period of slavery for roughly 1,000 years. Right? And after that period, right, then all these heathens are going to get their share of land, except the Edomite. They're going to be completely wiped out, presuming Obadiah at the 18th verse, 1 and 18. They're going to be completely eradicated. Let me grab it, because we say it right, but let me get it.
Yeah, well, that's where I went that night, right?
It says Ezekiel 39:14. It says, and they shall. Let me read up a little bit. Verse 11 says, and it shall come to pass in that day that I will give unto Gog a place there of graves in Israel, the valley of the passengers of the east, on the east of the sea, and it shall stop the noses of the passengers, and there shall they bury Gog and all his multitude, and they shall call it the valley of Hamon Gog. And 7 months shall the house of Israel be burying of them, that they may cleanse the land. Yeah, all the people of the land shall bury them, and it shall be to them a renown the day that I shall be glorified, saith the Lord power. And they shall sever out men of continual employment, passing through the land to bury with the passengers those that remain upon the face of the earth, to cleanse it. After the end of 7 months shall they search, and the passengers that pass through the land, when any seeth a man's bone, then shall he say, so the scriptures say that we will sever out continual employment after those days. You know, talking about when these thermonuclear missiles hit, right? So after those days, those bodies they're gonna have to be buried. So they're gonna already start their slavery, right? And let me grab this, and they shall grab them out of the rocks. It says Jeremiah 16:16. It says, behold, I will send for many fishers, saith the Lord, and they shall fish them. And after will I send for many hunters, and they shall hunt them from every mountain and from every hill and out of the holes of the rocks. And that's talking about primarily these elites, you know, but going into all these other nations too. You know, they're going to go into slavery. All right. The heathen will be our possession. Scriptures say that. Okay. And I will give thee the heathen for your possession. It says, Psalms 22:8. Ask of me, and I shall give thee the heathen for thine inheritance, and the uttermost part of the earth for thy possession. And that's going to happen. You know, like I said, all they that have put a hand on us, they all going to go into slavery too. You know, they all going to drink of that cup, like we read earlier. You know, that they're going to drink of that cup of slavery. That cup is slavery, and that's what's coming down the pipe, man. That's what's coming down the pipe. All these nations, they all going to drink of the cup, man. Why? Because they all put us in slavery. You know, the Lord said that He was only a little displeased with the heathen until they helped further the affliction, man. These heathens took a joy in our destruction. They still do, just like that dude, that jackass, Gypsy Crusader. You know, that jackass Gypsy Crusader. He loves, man. He has that great joy in pointing the finger. The scriptures even talk about that. The accuser of our brethren. Who's the accuser of our brethren? You know, the accuser of our brethren are the Edomites. Let me grab it, right? Of the brethren. Revelations 12 and 10. And I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, now has come salvation and strength and the kingdom of our God and the power of his anointing. For the accuser of our brethren is cast down, which accused them before our power day and night. And who's that? The Edomites. They're going to be cast down, okay? Because they give these people on this sign the wine to drink. And when they get drunk, they love to laugh about it. They love to point the finger. They give these people guns, gang violence through the music, all these paid actors, all of the sellouts that work in cahoots with the enemy to get these people right here to start killing each other, man. Like I brought out a while back, you had a member of the KKK. I think he was they call him a grand wizard, something like that to that regard. But he said something, man. He said that they no longer need to go out hunting niggas. All they gotta do is they gotta drop a whole crate of guns in a Jake neighborhood and give them booze and sit back, pop bottles and watch them kill each other, man, and give them music. That's what he said, and that's exactly what they've done. See, the CIA, they got intel on our people, man. Our people are the most studied people on the planet because guess what? We're genetically superior. We're genetically superior in every form. So they do studies on us on why is that, and what can they do to destroy us, right? Even Psalms the 83rd chapter goes into saying that all these nations came in cahoots to find ways to destroy these people. The scriptures say that we're not ignorant of Satan's devices. So all that nigga culture, that rap culture, that gang shoot 'em up shit, all those were devices of Esau and these other nations to destroy us. So that because music puts spirits on people, man. That's why you had King David when he was coming up. He was playing that harp to soothe the demons in King Saul, man. Which is clear example on the effects that music have, that vibration, that rhythm, it gets you in the spirit. Even now, man, we got this so-called holiday, so-called Christmas, that BS, right? And they're singing all these bells and carols and Marys and all kind of crazy shit, right? The jingle bells and the whole shit, and that's meant to put that Christmas spirit on people, that spell on people. They raise up lights and stuff like that. So these devils understand vibration. They understand. Yeah. Man, what was that prophet? He said, to Ezekiel, it says, "Son of man, can these bones live?" He said, "Prophesy unto the wind." Why? Because the words that we speak, they carry through vibrations, that affect the unseen. You see that witches, when they put spells on people, they speak that spell. As a matter of fact, the word entertainment means the entering of the mind. That's what that word means, entertainment. Enter in the mentis, Latin word for mentis, which is mind, if I'm not mistaken. You see, these devils, they study these things. They study our children. That's why you have PBS, the public broadcast service, and they have all these cartoons and different experiments, that are meant, because what the scriptures say? The scriptures say, train up a child in his ways and he shall never depart, right? So they understand that the best way to cut us off is from the root, when our children are born. That's why there's a lot of investment in Planned Parenthood, eugenics, all these things that are meant to cut off our people from the start, from the birth, so that our children don't grow up. They inject our children with all kind of. Now you have the FDA talking about taking out the Hep B vaccination. Why? You see, because they know what they're doing, man. But you have a lot of people that are waking up to their bullshit, man. But that still doesn't take away the danger, because When a child is born now today, they receive, upwards up to 12 to 15 immunizations. You have that MMR, you have the whatever the rest of the vaccines, right, for these babies, and then you have these parents talk about, oh, my son was perfectly fine, and he went in and got this shit, and now he got autism. Now he got the autism rate is at an all-time high. The children retardation rate at an all-time high. All these kids are being mentally retarded, being made retarded by these vaccines, man. These heavy chemicals that go up into their brains, man. But that's the work of the devil for you, man. And that's why we cannot wait, man. We long for a new heaven and a new earth where endureth righteousness, where this devil is no longer in power. Because as long as this devil is in power, there will never be disease free. The scriptures say what? That in the kingdom of heaven, we will mount our strength like the how does it go? We will salaki. It goes, we will have our strength like as the eagle. We will fly like the eagle. That we will have we will never get tired. We will never get sick. That the scriptures say that we will be able to leave our children to play around with the cockatrice, which is a crocodile. Our children are going to be physically able to put their hands in the mouth of a crocodile, because the earth is going to be so in tune and so in order. Right now, the earth is completely disordered and chaos. The animals are in disarray. From all the hunting and the poaching and so forth. Every all the time you hear of a race that has gone extinct, an animal like the white rhinos. They went into extinction. They got extinct because this devil loves to go hunting for the horn. That's the devil, man. That's what the scriptures say: destroy them that destroyed the earth. Destroy them. Who's the one that destroying the earth, man? It ain't these people. These people ain't no position of power to be, doing the wicked shit that Esau is doing. They ain't no position of power to be passing legislations and laws, that affect the world and the earth. It be the Esau, the so-called white man. He's the one that is in the position to do all these things all throughout the earth, all throughout the world. He can't leave nothing alone. This motherfucker cannot leave nothing alone. Excuse my French. You're a menace to the earth, man. You're a menace to the earth. And that's why you're going to get got. You're going to be Obadiah 1:18, like the other apostle of to say. Okay? Because then will the earth, as a matter of fact, let me grab it. Isaiah the 14th chapter. Right? Let me grab that. Isaiah 14. And this talking about Esau, man. Who is Lucifer? Which the word Lucifer means light bearer. Isaiah 14, it says, for the Lord will have mercy on Jacob and will yet choose Israel and set them in their own land. So it said the Lord will set them in their own land. But yet you got these devils over there saying that they're the Israelites. It says, and the stranger shall be joined with them, and they shall cleave to the house of Jacob. And the people shall take them and bring them to their place. And the house of Israel shall possess them in the land of the Lord for servants and handmaids. And they shall take them captives, whose captives they were, and they shall rule over their oppressor. Right? You don't see these devils ruling over Germany, ruling over everybody. Well, they are in a sense, because they control everything. Right? But you don't see them talking about you got to follow the law, statutes, and commandments. The whole earth ain't following the law, statutes, and commandments, right? But when we get in power, the earth is gonna be, everybody in the earth is gonna be forced to follow the law, statutes, and commandments of the Heavenly Father. It says, thou shalt take up this proverb against the king of Babylon and say, how hath the oppressor ceased? The golden city ceased. The Lord hath broken the staff of the wicked and the scepter of the rulers. He who smote the people in wrath with a continual stroke. He that ruled the nations in anger is persecuted and unhindered. And who's ruled the nations in anger, man? Esau. He has an embassy in every single nation on the planet, don't he? He gathered to himself all people, right? It says, verse 7, the whole earth is at rest and is quiet. They break forth into singing. Yeah, the fir trees rejoice at thee, and the cedars of Lebanon, saying, since thou art laid down, no feller is come up against us. Hell from beneath is moved for thee to meet thee at thy coming. It stirreth up the dead for thee, even all the chief ones of the earth. It hath raised up from their thrones all the kings of the nations, and they shall speak and say unto thee, art thou also become weak as we? Art thou become like unto us? Right? Thy pomp is brought down to the grave, and the noise of thy vows. The worm is spread under thee, and the worms cover thee. Okay? How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which did weaken the nations? For thou hast said in thine heart, I will ascend into heaven, I will exalt my throne above the stars. And that's what he did via the spaceships, via these satellites. He set up his thrones among the stars, man. The so-called white men. Okay, and this is who Isaiah, the 14th chapter, is describing. It describes him to a T. Okay, so, and most importantly, it said that the cedars of Lebanon have said that no fellas come up upon them since they went down, meaning that the earth is not going to be touched anymore. Let one of you damn devils touch a little tree in the kingdom. All right, you're going to get your head chopped off. All right, it says, for thou hast said in thine heart, I will ascend into heaven, right? I will exalt my throne above the stars of the Most High. I will sit also upon the mount of the congregation, the side of the north. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. You got these aeroplanes above the clouds, man, right? And he said that he will be like the Most High. That's why he performs all kinds of different surgeries. You just had a head transplant surgery that just happened not too long ago, man, where they literally cut somebody's head and put it in a different body, right? Now it says, yet thou shalt be brought down to hell, to the sides of the pit, right? Because America primarily going to be destroyed via thermonuclear missiles. Also, Revelations, the 18th chapter tells you that, okay? They that see thee shall narrowly look upon thee and consider thee, saying, is this the man that made the earth to tremble? Talking about a man, it's not one particular man, but a whole race of people, right? A whole group of men. Talking about the Edomites, okay? Because this is who that fits, okay? The Esau, the so-called white man, all right? It says, let's read that again. It says, they that see thee shall narrowly look upon thee and consider thee, saying, is this the man that made the earth to tremble, that did shake kingdoms, that made the world as a wilderness and destroyed the cities thereof, that opened not the house of the prisoners? And they haven't opened the house of the prisoners because they still have these people in slavery, right? They laid cities to waste. Look at Hiroshima and Nagasaki. What happened over there in the Second World War, where they dropped Fat Boy and Little Boy, whatever the hell the fucking bombs were named. All right, it says, but thou art cast out thy grave like an abominable branch, and as the raiment of those that are slain, thrust through with a sword that go down to the stones of the pit, as a carcase trodden on the feet. Thou shalt not be joined with them in burial, because thou hast destroyed thy land and slain thy people. The seed of evildoers shall never be renowned. Okay? And they are the seed of evildoers. All they do is evil. Okay? All they do is start wars. They're the harbingers of death. Okay? They declare a war on every goddamn thing, man. A war on drugs, a war on animals, a war on everything. They've declared war on the whole planet. Okay? And they are the seed of evildoers, meaning that their generations, they're going to keep doing the same thing. You can't leave them alive. You got to kill them all. Okay? And that's why I said that it shall never be renowned, right? Prepare slaughter. Oh, this is beautiful. for his children, for the iniquity of their fathers, that they do not rise, nor possess the land, nor fill the face of the world with cities. For I will rise up against them, saith the Lord of hosts, and cut off from Babylon the name, and remnant, and son, and nephew, saith the Lord. I will also make it a possession for the bittern, and pools of water, and I will sweep it with the besom of destruction, saith the Lord of hosts. And Babylon's talking about America, because this place is known as Babylon, the virgin daughter. Okay, because the word Babylon is a Hebrew word, babal, which means confusion. Okay, this is where you don't, like I always say, you don't know who's an adult and who's a child anymore. You don't know from a man to a woman anymore. You know, you got all these transformers that look straight out women, and they improving that surgery more and more every year, all the time. You know, where it's gonna be nearly impossible for you to know if you're dealing with a woman or not, because they're gonna have BJJs just like a regular woman. These transformers. Okay, this is what they're doing. I will also make it a possession for the bittern and pools of water, and I will sweep it with the besom of destruction, said the Lord. And that besom of destruction is these thermonuclear missiles. All right, when these thermonuclear missiles hit, they send out this mushroom clouds that's like a besom, is a sweeping. It just sweeps. Okay. Now it says, I will also, verse 24, the Lord of hosts has sworn, saying, surely as I have thought, so shall it come to pass, and as I have purposed, so shall it stand, that I will break the Assyrian in my land, and upon my mountains tread them underfoot, and Salaki. Then shall his yoke depart from off them, and his burden depart from off their shoulder. This is the purpose that is purposed upon the whole earth, and this is the hand that is stretched upon all the nations. For the Lord of hosts hath purposed, and who shall disannul it? And his hand is stretched out, and who shall turn it back? Okay. In the year the king of Ahasuerus died with this burden, rejoice not thou, whole Palestinian, because the rod of him that smote thee is broken. For out of the serpent's root shall come forth a cockatrice, and his fruit shall be a fiery flying serpent. And the firstborn of the poor shall feed, and the needy shall lie down in safety. And I will kill thy root with famine, and he shall slay thy remnant. Okay. Now, that's the bottom line. Okay, that's the bottom line. You know, the seed of evildoers. You know, starting with that dude Gypsy. You know, but the bottom line is that there's, you know, no kingdom endures forever and ever and ever. Everything has an end. You know, like everything that goes up must come down. You know, and this kingdom, the kingdom of the Edomites, America, ain't no different. Okay, it will end. Okay, one day. You know, sooner rather than later, because guess what? All the prophecies are in line. You know, all the prophecies are in line. World War III is commencing. You know, you have this new war that popped up. Well, not really new, between Thailand and Bangladesh. I think it is, if I'm not mistaken. They're at it. They're going at it. You know, the Ukraine shit, the Ukraine conflict. You know, the Venezuela with America conflict, which that in itself could stir up a whole new avenue. Because guess what? Russia has interest in Venezuela. China has interest in Venezuela. You got oil tankers that are going by there that are being basically pirated by America that belong to some of these Russian companies, man. And that's going to stir up some big shit. Because guess what? The purpose of the Lord pursuing Joel, the 3rd chapter, all right, is to gather all these heathens up, bind them in a war, and have them destroy each other. The same tactic that Esau uses on us, guess what? The Lord got jokes. He's using it on them, because he's going to make all these heathens kill each other. Okay? And that's what we're desperately waiting for, man. Through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Shai, we hope to be delivered. We hope to be in that number. Okay? We hope that the Lord has mercy on us. I don't want to. That's why I come out here. That's why the brothers come out here. That's why we do this in season and out of season. You know? standing up on what we believe firmly, wholeheartedly. As the scriptures say, we got the comfort, which comforts us. You see, every time we turn on the television or whatever via means you use to look at the news, and you see what's going on, you'll be like, yup, look, that's in the scriptures. That's in the scriptures, man. This thing's is ready. So, hey, man, I don't want to man, this be the year, man. We're coming up on a so-called new year, all right? And this be the year. A lot of shit's been going on this year that happened. And let this year be the final year where the Lord comes back and destroys this goddamn place, destroy this kingdom. Because, like the scriptures say, if the Lord don't come back soon, there'll be no flesh to be saved. Okay, because we're in the valley of the shadow of death. This is truly the valley of the shadow of death. All right, so we do it with faith, wholeheartedly, man. And we don't care about our lives. We forsake our lives, man. Fuck our lives, man. We want this place to be destroyed. Because guess what? When the Lord sets up the Israelites, all right, we're all going to come back in our right state of mind. All right, we're all going to take part of that new covenant. So we're not going to sin anymore. The earth going to be perfect again, as it once was in the kingdom, in the Garden of Eden. All right, so I'm going to leave it at that. Hopefully this was edifying. All right, to the next one, I want to say, Kal Halal Yumla, Yahweh Ba'Shem, Yahweh Shai Ba'Shem, Nakakudash. A double honor to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone. Once again, peace, salutations to all you Arkans. I do say shalom.